Hello and welcome to session 3 of Moving to Thinkorswim Mobile. My name is James Boyd. Alongside me in the chat is Cameron May, a fellow instructor as well. We welcome him, and we also like to welcome all of you as well. Now remember, today's session is only 20 minutes, so we want to jump right into the material. Quick heads up as we get started, want to give us some quick reminders that when we talk about options here today, which is part of the series, remember that options carry a high level of risk, not suitable for all investors. Also remember the information here is for general informational purposes only, and investing involves risk. Now, as we get started, this is really our session overview. I will share with you momentarily the playlist so you could go back if you have not seen the prior 2 sessions. Today, we are focusing on placing and managing single option trades. Next week, now examples of those would be like long calls or short puts, which many of you might practice already. Next week, if you said, well, what about verticals? What about diagonals or things like that? That will be covered in next week's session. So when we talk about some of the agenda items, what we want to cover here today is how do we view and customize the options chain, okay? We're going to demonstrate how to place a single option trade and also really illustrate how we could do that. So I'm going to share my screen with you now. There's 2 questions that I want to address, and then we want to start with where we finished from last week. So I am sharing with you, I am using a Apple iPad Pro 11-inch. I'm in landscape mode, so it's sideways, so you could see it better, okay? Now, one of the questions we had was, where do I find my balance? Well, remember, if we log in, okay, and I'm going to kind of use my cursor here. When we log in, and if we're on the overview tab at the bottom, okay, overview, you're going to see current account balances right in the middle, okay? Now, one thing I want to kind of show you is if you are in a place where maybe in an airport or whatever, and you don't want other people around you to kind of see kind of that balance, just kind of click on the eyeball right there, if you will. Click on it, and it kind of dots it out, right? Click on it again. It only opens based upon my Face ID, and it shows that balance. Now, the other way we could actually see it is if I go right here and I click on that icon. Okay, let me just go back just real quick. Okay, I'm just resharing my screen. Share screen. And it should be coming back momentarily. Okay. Okay. Now, just bringing that back up. Okay. So we have the account balances, right? So where we have the account balances, we can click on that little arrow right there. And what that's going to do is when we click on that, it's going to show the account balance further. Sorry about that. It dropped. And we'll bring it back up. But make sure as you're pulling this up, you'll see that yourself. So we have the account balances, right? We're going to click on that little triangle right there. When I click on that triangle, what it does is it takes us to account summary. Now, that's one way you could do it. What you're also going to notice is when we go to positions, okay, down at the bottom, when I go down to positions down at the bottom, right at the very top, you're going to see where it says $sign. What do you think that might mean? Now, by the way, we can see some of that information right there, like net liquidating value, available money, etc. Right up there, click on the dollar amount. We are on the positions tab, okay? If I go back up to the dollar amount, what does it do? Okay, it shows that value of your portfolio at the top. Now, the second part of the question is, we're going to go down to where it says more, down at the bottom, okay? Let me circle that so you can see that, more. Now, again, where can I see the balances and get more information? Click on more. We're going to go to balances again, that $sign. And now what you're going to see is, hey, can I see my account balances, etc.? Can I see different accounts? Yes. Okay. We can see that there by selecting which account you want to see. If you said, I like to see more information, simply just go to that gear right there, and we could put in different things that we want to see based upon what type of trading you're doing. So there's a couple ways to do it, okay? So remember, we did overview, okay? Number 1, when we go to the positions, we'll see the account balances at the top as well when we click on the $sign, right? And then last but not least, more. And you're going to see that if we click on more, account balances, we could get it there as well. Now, one of the questions asked here today was, hey, are they going to have a calendar icon? Yeah, if we go to more again, we go to calendar, okay? And we could see it right there. And that's calendar is based on dividends, economic events, conference calls, earnings, you name it, okay? Right there. And you could say, I want to see it for the month, or I want to see it for the day, okay? So now, so those are some quick questions that were asked. I just want to address right off the start, okay? Now, one thing I want to kind of do is, let's imagine that we said, hey, James, I want to do an options trade using the thinkorswim mobile. So what we're going to do is I'm going to just go over here to the right-hand side, and I'm just going to pick a stock, okay? If I click on, let's say, GS, Goldman Sachs, click, what does it do? Brings up the chart, okay? Now, notice when I click on GS over here to the left-hand side, now, by the way, if you said, well, I didn't have that list on the right-hand side, how do I bring it up? Well, we're going to go to the kind of the magnifying glass, and we could just type in GS, okay? Now, notice when I type in GS, do you notice something over to the right-hand side? It says option chain. Huh, it's kind of what we're talking about today. Let's go there. So I'm going to click on option chain. Now, notice it takes us to the same page that we saw before, but notice we can see information of Goldman Sachs at the top. We can expand that by just clicking on that little carrot right there. Now, if I click on that, it's going to expand and give us more information about the stock, okay? Now, notice right below it, it will say charts, news, options, portfolio, okay? If you have a position on Goldman Sachs, it will state that there. Level 2, and we also have what we call profile, okay? So all right there. Now, we're talking about options. If I click on options, now what we're going to see on this is a couple things we want to kind of point out here, which is, now I'm going to kind of close everything up. So first thing what we're going to notice is we see information like, so when I click on options, it will say spread custom, and we're just going to focus on single options today. You're going to say, it's going to say, well, how many strikes do you want to look at? We're just going to choose for our example here today. Let's do 4 strikes, okay? We can see what the implied volatility is, what the IV percentile is, volume weighted, average price, etc., historical percentile, historical volatility percentile. Now, what you're now going to notice is as we kind of scroll down below, we can see on the left-hand side, calls, and on the right-hand side, those puts. Now, as we kind of scroll down here at the bottom, we can see which ones are the weekly options, okay? Which ones are the monthly options? What's the implied volatility over to the right? And this looks just like the desktop version. And the answer is that is true. Now, let's get a little bit more room on this screen. How do we do that? Right there, let's kind of just click on this and drag it to the right so we got a full screen to work with. Thank you very much. And we'll just move it over, okay? Now, what I'm going to do, drag that over. There you go. So I'm going to imagine that we want to do our first option trade, and we want to, let's say, buy a long call. Well, I want you to imagine that we're on the desktop. And what we're going to do is we're going to click on this little carrot right there on the 17 May, okay, option. We're going to click on that. What does it do? It expands, okay, the strikes. We have the 400 strike, 405, 410, 415. Now, if someone wanted to just buy a call, imagine we're on the desktop or the web-based version as well, how do we do that? Well, we know from using the desktop on web-based, we simply click on the ask price. Now, wait, before we go there, some of you might be thinking, James, is there any way that I could create some kind of custom labels on those columns? And the answer is, of course. Click on that gear, And you could, for example, say, look, I want to see delta on there. Now, let me show you that again. So if you say, when I pick a strike price, I'm normally looking at like what delta is or what the theta is, etc. How do we put those on the column headings? Click on the little settings gear. We're going to click plus for delta, and it puts it right there. If I said, well, I would also like to see theta, it's all A to Z. I want to put theta in there as well. Just click on the plus. Now what you're going to notice is there's those columns that we're used to seeing. So if we chose the 405 call, okay, we're going to go and just click on the ask price, okay? So we're just going to click on that ask price right there. Now, when we do click on that, where does it go? Well, it puts it up right there. Now, this minus sign just means you want to take that off, okay? This is saying that we're doing one contract of the 17 May 405 call. If we want to proceed to the next step, we're just going to go over here to the right-hand side and click on where it says next. Next. And now what we're going to see is like, hey, is this what you want to do? One contract of the 405 call, okay? We're buying it. It's a limit order, and it's good for the day. Now, what you're going to notice is we can also change the price up or down and or the quantity, what's the cost of the trade, and the account that we're doing it at or in. We're now going to go to where it says review. And now what you're going to see in this case is it's going to show you kind of just reconfirm, is this what you want to do? Now, on this page, so if I go back, if I say review again, it's going to show information like what's the break-even stock price? What's the maximum profit? What's the maximum loss? Okay. Now, for some of you who are trading real, it will also show you a chart that looks like the Analyze tab, and it will also show you a table as well right there if we're on live trading. So if you're trading live, you will see a risk analysis at the top, which is helpful for many people. Okay. We're on paper money, so it's not showing that. We're going to click on review, and we're going to send this in the paper trade account, okay? And it fires. View the order. Now, where did that order go? Well, remember what we want to do is at the bottom, one of the icons is just orders. We're going to click on orders. And we know that if it was still working, it would be in the working. If it filled, it would be in filled. We don't see anything on filled yet. So we go back to working. There's Goldman Sachs right there. What is it doing? It's still working to get filled at 1160. So notice how we're going back to those same tabs that we did before. Okay. Now, wonder if you want to buy a call, but then set a stop. How do you do that? So let's do this. Let's go back up to that magnifying glass. We're going to pick a different stock. We're going to pick example given Delta. Okay. Now, if I type in the symbol DAL, okay, and I didn't press enter. If I just type in DAL and I say, go to the option chain, click. What we're going to do is we're going to use the same expiration just for time's sake. We're going to go down to the May call, okay, and we're going to buy the call just like we did, but we're going to add one more step. We're going to say, look, buy the call, but we want to set like a stop, okay? Now, notice when I click on that call, that ask for that strike price, and it puts the call up top, same thing we just did before. We're going to go over here to where it says next. Next. Now, what you're now going to notice is, wonder if we wanted to put maybe, let's say, like a conditional order, okay? We're going to click on where it says more now. Now, you should remember this from last week. Guess where we're going? We're going to say create advanced order, okay? How do we get there? Well, on this screen, when we were about ready to send the order, we can say more, create advanced order. Now, when we create advanced order, do you remember this from last week? You better, because we did this, okay? And what you're going to notice is here's the initial order, but we want to add a stop. So let's click the plus. What does the plus do? It just adds a sell order, which we are going to click on. We're going to click on that right there. Now, when I click on that, what you're now going to notice is we can change the limit order to guess what? A stop. We could actually say, look, if this price were to go down to, let's say, just for time's sake, $1, okay, get out of the position. And we'll make this a stop GTC, okay? And what we're going to do in this case is say more. And by the way, what we could do, so if we want to do just entry with a stop, this is what it would look like. But if you said, James, I was also kind of wondering if I could add that target. How do we do that? Well, that's the OCO order we finished on last week. How do I add the target? Well, click on the add order again. And now what you're going to notice is this order to the left is the stop. This is going to be the target, okay? Now, what I'm going to do in this case is I'm going to click on the plus right there. And once we do that, we could just now type in the price. Hey, if that call were to go to $5 at any time from now to in the future, I want to sell that call. Now, by the way, this is the same functionality that we finished on last week. Notice up at the top, we're buying the call. We have a stop. We put a target. If I want to send that order now, I'm going to click on review, okay? And notice it just looks exactly like the desktop of the web-based version. In green, that's what we're buying. In red, that's what we're selling. How do I know which one is the stop? STP is the stop. How do I know which one is the target? That's the limit. If we go ahead and say, yes, this is what I want to do, we're going to go ahead and send this in the paper. How do I know it's paper trade? We're going to click on paper trade. Now, if I click on that right there, it sends it. Now, I heard a little ding as we were doing that. If I go down to the bottom and I click on orders, okay, and remember one of our positions, the first one we did was Goldman Sachs. It's not in working orders anymore. Well, if it did get filled, we're going to go to where it says filled. Filled. And now what you're going to see is, did Goldman Sachs get filled? Check, it did. It's there. Did the Delta position get filled? Check, it also got filled. Now, just quickly, okay? If we said, well, James, I was thinking about selling a put on Delta, how would I do it? 30 seconds or less, right? We're going to go the option chain. Instead of looking on the call side, we're going to go look at the put side. Now, you might be thinking, well, James, when I look at this, I would also like to look at maybe open interest as well. Fine, let's do it. How do we put the open interest there? Click on the settings. We're going to scroll down to where we can get to the open interest, okay? Now we can see the number of contracts. We could also include the volume as well. So we see now Delta, Theta, open interest. Let's imagine someone says, I want to sell the put by itself. How do you do that? Just like we were on the desktop with the web-based version, click on the bid price. If we click on that 164, it puts that order right there, okay? That we're selling that put. If we just want to sell the put by itself, go to where it says next. Next. Now what you're going to notice is that it says we're -1, we're selling the put, and we could do that as a limit order or change the type of order it is, the time in force, the price, and also the quantity, okay? Now, if you said, I want to change the type of account it is, we could change that as well. If we want to just sell the put, let's review this order, okay? Read it, and then send it. Now, that was the same thing as a long call, but and I heard that little ding again. That was the same thing as a long call, but we just sold the put. Where is the order? Down at the very bottom. Go to the order icon. Order. Now remember, just like in the desktop of the web-based version, working, filled, canceled. In the working, what you're now going to see is if I go to where it says filled, you're now going to see that there's the short put on Delta, filled. There's the long call on Delta, filled. There's actually the long call on Goldman Sachs, filled. Okay? Now, your homework assignment, so what we did here today is we practice on putting on a long call by itself. Okay, step 1. We also did Delta where we actually entered a long call and set a stop and a target. And last but not least, number 3, we went in and we did a short put and we just sold it. I want you to practice those 3 steps. Buying a call by itself, buy a call with a stop and or an OCO bracket, and then sell a put by itself. Practice doing that. Okay. Now, what you're going to find is as we kind of do the orders, the advanced orders like for next week, or placing and managing spread-based trades, what you're going to see is the same thing we did with the options and the stock trades. So it really is kind of using what we've already learned, but just different types of trades. Okay. So I'm out of my time here. I want to also make sure that, for example, if you said, James, where can we also get a playlist for the previous classes? Let me send this out to you. And what you're going to notice is that playlist is right there. So if you said, hey, I missed the first week, go back and review Trading on the Go right there. Right there, Getting Started with Thinkorswim Mobile. I missed last week. There's that class on 412. We will put that class, the next one, right here. Now, our next session coming up in just a little bit is going to be getting started with using the Thinkorswim web with Lee Bull, okay? And that will be at 11 a.m. Eastern, okay? And actually, I want to confirm that. Just take a look at that. Yeah, I think this is, now, by the way, how would you know if that's based on, yeah, that is based on Eastern time, confirmed, okay? Okay, now also just a reminder that I want to thank Cam for answering those questions in chat. I gave you also a homework assignment as well. Make sure that you go out and practice that. Now remember, with what we discussed, the Thinkorswim Mobile, remember that when we talk about investing, all investing involves risk. And also remember that to understand that this was done for paper trading purposes only. With that said, I want to thank you so much for your comments and your participation. And with that said, this has been really the session 3 on moving to the Thinkorswim Mobile. I wish you a great day and take care. Bye-bye.